my gosh.
My voice is showing it now. I don't know what it was, but 2 days of drinking Woodford, I feel like my voice is more distinguished.
You sound
now.
aged
Right?
and distinguished.
What's wrong with
right,
me?
right.
What happened to me?
Whoa, well, if you think his voice sounds distinguished, then you need to see this guy now because he matched that brown, raspy tone of his voice with a beautiful brown tan from Turks and Caicos now. So now he does really look like he might be the most interesting man in the world. Ahmed Fareed, Chris Sims Unbuttoned, Week 11 podcast recap. What's up, man? How are you?
Good. I do look... I look like I'm almost embarrassed or something. I'm so red and like dark.
You're not red or anything. You didn't look like you were about to say that. I thought you were about to go look at yourself and go, I do look handsome. I do. Yeah.
Different.
All right. Well, you're wearing your red today.
I'm wearing the red today.
Way to go.
I'm back from vacation.
Right. I thought today would be a blue day. I thought you'd wear the blue pants today.
I did that last time.
The
I was
Lions
with you.
won yesterday.
Oh,
I thought you might
though.
break that out. You know, I
Yeah.
just was figuring we were going to see that.
I wasn't going to bring that up, though.
Yeah.
I know it's still kind of a sore subject.
Yeah,
for
we'll
you.
get to it later. Hold on. Don't jump our agenda here.
You don't
want
to talk about it more than you have.
No,
to.
I don't. I definitely don't. But I do want to talk about Turks and Caicos. So what's up?
It was great.
Good
I don't know
time?
if anyone's ever been there. It was our biggest trip. Me and my wife went. We left the kids at home. We just ditched them with my parents. We're just like,
I didn't know that. That's awesome. So you had a real vacation.
Real vacation. It was like
bottles of
5
Woodford
days.
every night.
Oh my gosh, you can still hear it in my voice here. No, it was awesome. I'd never been before. It's like the biggest trip me and my wife have taken since our honeymoon. Turks and Caicos is the amazing thing about it is the low temperature is 80 degrees, at least when we were there.
Right.
And the high temperature is 83.
Yeah.
It stays within this one
know,
band
right?
the whole time. And so it's always perfect.
Yep.
If you're in the sun, it's not that bad because you got the ocean breeze.
The wind is
salt
always
water.
pretty good there, right? Yeah, I've been there before too. It is. It's comfortable that way.
I'm almost getting depressed talking about it.
Yeah,
'cause I
it's
still wish
sad.
I
You
was
shed
there.
a tear. You had to fight them back.
Well,
when
there's
you're
some
leaving.
vacations where you leave and you're like, that's about enough time.
Yeah.
It's good to get back to work. You know, for that one, that was not the case.
That was not one of them.
I was like, I am literally depressed leaving this place.
We did Woodford at night. What did we do?
Oh, rum punch is the big
rum punches.
drink there.
Is that what you're doing? That's what I'm going to say. You're more in the island feel.
And I've got a Fitbit too, and so I've been tracking my resting heart rate, which
Right.
has usually been pretty good. It's like in the low 50s.
Right.
I spent a week drinking it, like ballooned up into like 60, 70.
I'm sure. Last I heard, drinking's not good for you. Okay, that's what I've heard out there.
Not great. But it was awesome. It was cool, and I got back the first day and immediately was thrust back into your arms.
They put you right back to work.
Now, that wasn't totally planned. There were a few sicknesses out there, but then I was with you doing the Peacock show late at night.
It was
last
awesome.
night.
It was great to have you. All right, so you done now? Are we done with horses and vacations and everything else in the world? You're going to put your focus back on me?
You know what? That's
where it
actually
matters
true.
most?
That's actually true. It's
Right.
like basically this podcast and a couple NBC updates. You might see me pop up on your TV on the weekend during a golf tournament.
All right.
But that's about it.
Okay, so your
the end of the
focus is
year.
on me.
Focus is on you.
Okay, good. I like that. I like to hear that.
Is your focus on me?
You complete me.
And this podcast.
You complete me.
We got to talk about Week 11 because that's what we do. If we didn't do that, it'd be weird.
Yeah,
because this is a football podcast.
Right.
And Week 11 was kind of a weird week again. There were some results that made sense, some results that were maybe closer than we had anticipated.
No marquee crazy game like we've had maybe the last few weeks. I mean, there were some good ones, some close ones, but maybe not as crazy of a Sunday as we've seen, as of late with, the Bills-Vikings games and some of these games that have had these unbelievable finishes, but still always an entertaining Sunday and always shocks and surprises. I mean, who could have called some of these games? Certainly. I mean, hey, Dallas, what they did to Minnesota, we'll dive into that. But, it was a good Sunday.
So that is our promise to you, the homies. We will talk about every single game, every team that played. We'll give you the damn okay, the players that jumped out at us. Give me the headlines. We'll give you the headlines on a couple of the
Presented by Hyundai.
Presented by Hyundai. We'll get that sponsorship read in there. But we start... And we don't always do this.
Yeah.
We like our game, our NBC game, but it's not always the best game.
Yeah. We've been doing it a little more lately, though.
Because the games have been good.
They've been damn good.
And I think yesterday, this was one of those games where it was down to the end, great finish. I think this was the best game of the day, right? Best result, best finish of the day.
I think so.
Eagles was pretty good.
Yeah.
We'll
the drama of this, the quarterbacks playing, I agree with you.
So let's start with that. On Sunday Night Football, the Chiefs came back and beat the Chargers when it looked like with about 3 minutes to go, or I guess it was right around 2 minutes to go.
Yeah.
Justin Herbert was going to be the game-winning hero, bring your team back from a deficit quarterback. And all those fans in SoFi Stadium were booing because they were all Chiefs fans.
Get
out of here.
I know it is. I do feel bad for the Chargers when it comes to that aspect, no doubt.
But it was Patrick Mahomes who brought his team back, which should not be a surprise at this point. He's 13-7 in his career when trailing at halftime, so no halftime deficit is a big deal. In fact, a deficit down in the final minute is not a big deal too. That's what stood out to me the most. It was like, yes, it was like Justin Herbert, good for him. I was like, this was a good, even though they lost, it was like, you start to see some of the things that we saw before.
Yeah,
the dink and dunk was gone. Keenan Allen was some big-time plays.
Definitely.
But at the end of the day, it's Patrick Mahomes making those Patrick Mahomes plays that maybe no one else in football can make.
He's on fire right now. He's playing awesome. And I think, you've been hearing me say the last few weeks, I think he's playing as good as any year of his career. Is every bit as good as his MVP season, his second league in the NFL, his first as a starter. He's just special, and it's just – he's one of those guys that, when the Chargers score a touchdown with 1:46 left, you just go, damn, well, that's too much time. Like, it's going to have to be something miraculous for you guys to win, even though you just took the lead with 4 minutes and you're up by 4 points. It's going to take you something miraculous still to win the football game.
It's like maybe they'll score fast enough to give you some time to come back. And
or maybe he'll just throw one of those trick shots or be, tied up and try to throw a 20-yard out route with 4 guys hanging on. That's what you're hoping for, because, it's almost inevitable at that point. And then really it's the Chiefs. I mean, Ahmed, we were kind of waxing poetically at the end of the football game. It's just like they thrive for those moments. It seems like when they're like, hey, we're down 20? We're down 17. We're down a touchdown it's like they're almost like, hey, let's play football now. And it's hard not to root for them because of it. It is. It's infectious, and just the way they battle. Again, they're the toughest, passing team I've ever seen in the history of the league. They're not soft or finesse by any stretch of the imagination. Again, just the adjustments they make in the second half. We were talking about that last night, right, Ahmed? I mean, first half, Chargers throwing the ball around a little bit. They're pushing the ball down the field. Second half, they can't do jack diddly shit on until the drive you're talking about. I mean, they were shut out by that defense until really what I thought looked like offense pass interference on Keenan Allen on the big 3rd and 18 throw. So, but that's where the Chiefs are so amazing that way. And then even the adjustments at halftime, that we also joked out because it's Andy Reid, and there they are last week against the Jaguars, and you go, man, they ran the ball. This is great. And they start off the game last night, and they're running the ball, and you're like, man, this new Chiefs element, and then they forget about it. And you're like, what? You're running for 10 yards a carry, and you stopped running. And they come out in the second half, and it's like somebody grabbed Andy Reid and shook him and was like, here's a Mr. Goodbar, get your hangry out, and we got to run the ball, Andy. And then he was like, oh, yeah, okay, yeah, you're right, we do. And they come out running the ball. And they kind of control the whole second half, even though they dug themselves in a hole in the first half. And they're just a tough, resilient team, and to your point, he's magical. He's magical.
He's 14-0 in his career now in road division games.
That's
he has
insane.
not lost a division
insane.
game on the road. Best by any quarterback since the 1970 merger. So he is awesome. And now he is the odds-on MVP favorite.
Yeah.
Minus 155. He's ahead of Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, and Tua. All of them are actually tied at plus 600. And so it's Patrick's trophy to lose now at this point, which is crazy. We're week 11 here, and it seems almost like a foregone conclusion. I don't know what those other guys would have to do to catch him at this point. I think Patrick would have to just fall on his face.
Well, yeah, he'd probably have to have some games, maybe like we're seeing from Josh Allen a little bit, where he just does some dumb things and throws a few interceptions and all that. But yeah, I'm with you. I think when you again, argue the fact of no Tyreek Hill, the adjustment to that.
And not even that. There was no Juju in this game.
Exactly.
No McCole Hardman.
No, but that's what's amazing about them. It's just we don't even care. We kind of just go, well, we still expect him to make great throws and great plays and throw for 300 yards. That's where he's gotten. That's why he's already a first ballot Hall of Famer. But I would agree with your assessment there that he's definitely in the league for the MVP voting, and the way Allen has played the last few weeks, Hurts hasn't, done anything extraordinary. The stats are always going to be good with Tua. Again, I don't think he's in the class of this, but his stats are going to keep him in this. But yeah, I would go with Mahomes there too. But then Chris Jones at the end of the football game, him making plays, Ahmed. The Chiefs are just a battle-tested, tough football team, and I can't say enough positive things about them.
Got a little bit of a running game. Isaiah Pacheco, the first Kansas City running back with 100 or more rushing yards since week 4 of last season. Is that something that sticks?
It sticks. I think it's going to stick. I mean, I thought it would have stuck a little earlier in the first half last night.
Yeah.
But I think that's why he's the starter now. Like we talked. Well, you weren't here last week, but last week we on Monday was kind of hitting on.
I was in Turks and
You were,
Caicos.
yeah. Thank you. Yeah, you were. Yep. You're nice and tan. But yeah, that was one of the things. He does give them another element of toughness that we're talking about.
Yeah.
And I think it is real. He's a guy that defenses really legitimately have to worry about it. He's not a space runner. So that's where it's different, too. They can call some plays and go, hey, let's just go between the tackles, and he'll find the seam, and he'll smash it in there. And even though it's a gain of 3 maybe with Clyde Edwards-Helaire, with Isaiah Pacheco and the way he runs, it's a gain of 6. And there's a difference there. And then, you couple that with Travis Kelce and what he does in the pass game, and it's just they got a special combination of a lot of things there in Kansas
that's the
City.
thing, too. As much as we compliment Patrick Mahomes, able to do it with whatever wide receivers out there, I don't think he'd probably be able to do the same thing without a guy like Travis Kelce.
Right.
115 yards in this game, 3 touchdowns. Seems like when they needed a big play, he was getting that big play, and he was matched up with Derwin James, and that's not an easy task for. I mean, maybe it was for Travis Kelce, but for most tight ends, that would not be an easy task. I mean, we're getting to the point, and they asked Chris Jones about this. Rodney did, about Travis Kelce, and Chris Jones had a good answer. He was like, I don't want to disrespect anything, Shannon Sharp back in the day and Rob Gronkowski, but, man, when you look at Travis Kelce and what he's able to do, especially this year without those weapons around him, I mean, we're talking all-time tight end here, aren't we?
Definitely. Another, like I said with Mahomes, his first ballot Hall of Famer. I think Chris Jones is the first ballot Hall of Famer in my opinion. I mean, they got 3 of them on the team. But I think Kelce, I think what's amazing about Kelce is just that we're getting into a part of a career where you start to see guys usually start to slow down or go the wrong way. And he's played his best football the last 2 years. And I think it's, again, no disrespect to the Shannon Sharps of the world. I've never seen anything like this in the pass game. Never. He's the best pass-catching tight end I've ever seen in the history of football. Gronk would be not far off of that for me. And, of course, we know Gronk. It's just a different style of a tight end with his blocking and all of that. But I think these are the 2 guys of the era. And, it's not only – it's an amazing combination, one, because, they got an offensive coordinator and they know how to use him, and he's a great talent. But then when you couple that with Mahomes when he leaves the pocket or does anything that way, Kelce just – he grew up playing football in the backyard. He's got great feel for like, oh, wait, he's running this way. I see this guy running this way. Let me stop and find the hole here. Oh, wait, this guy stopped and, Mahomes stopped. Wait, I see a hole over here. Let me just kind of shuffle over there and get in the hole, and he finds me. So that's where they're special, too. It's like you stop them, and okay, great, but then backyard football comes into play, and you don't stop them. It was the second time in 3 weeks, too, I feel like, as we were watching the game, there was more man-to-man in the football game. I think people have gotten to the point, and I don't disagree with this approach of what the Chargers did last night, that you just can't play sit back, take away the big play defense. We're seeing that. And, I said to you at one point, which they ran at the end of the football game, the game-winning touchdown, I said, Kansas City, oddly enough, has got to get back to their man-to-man plays that you used to call early on in Mahomes' career, when teams were still not scared of the defense and we'll play the man and double this guy or whatever, and they would cross you and pick you and get to some of those plays. And I felt like they got to some of those plays at the end of the football game.
Why didn't Derwin get his hands on Travis Kelce?
I don't know.
Touchdown
I don't know. I don't know. I'd like to watch that, a little more close to it. At times, too, when you're in the red zone like that, right, and you are in a situation where it's man-to-man, the other thing that can play into maybe not wanting to be too aggressive is just like, well, if I do miss him at the line of scrimmage and he runs a seam route, I mean, it's touchdown. Like, it's going to be an easy pitch and catch. Right. So that would be the only thing I can think of. But, that was one of the few plays all night we saw him not get his hands on him.
Addy M27 wants to give a shout-out to another, maybe emerging star for the Chiefs. He says, Patrick Mahomes is the biggest equalizer in the sport, but how about Nick Bolton? He's really in this top 10 linebacker conversation. He had a game-high 14 tackles in the game, had a forced fumble, and had that game-sealing interception.
Yes, listen, he's He flies around.
You liked him coming out of college.
Yeah, I did. Oh, I like. I have a crush on Kansas City in the way they play because they have a bunch of guys that we've talked about with some other teams where they just fly around and they bring it. They have no regard for their body, and Nick Bolton is perfect that way. He is, and he was all over the field last night. He did some dumb things too. Had the late hit out of bounds on Justin Herbert we sat there. Yeah. Had the face mask in the end zone there where he held on the guy's face mask for like 7 seconds. But yeah, he is. He's your modern day NFL linebacker, a guy that's kind of a thumper in the run game, but has great speed, sideline to sideline, the screens, pass coverage, all that. He's really good, and yeah, it's a really good overall football team. Again, I know that the Kansas City, to me, over the last 4 weeks, they're the best team in football, in my opinion. I would take, if they played the Eagles tomorrow, I would take Kansas City to win that game.
So we'll talk about the Eagles next, but I want to say that I don't think the Chargers are done.
Yeah.
They're 5-5 right now.
Yep.
Probably not what they want to be. They have some injuries.
Yes, they do.
But that was a game where they easily could have won, right? If Mahomes doesn't do the Mahomes magic.
No doubt.
They were in a game, and they were in a game last week against the 49ers.
Yeah.
We think the 49ers could be around until the final Sunday of the year.
100%.
So the Chargers, they're not done yet.
No, they're not. There's a lot of positives about the Chargers. They need to get those receivers healthy, and hopefully Mike Williams isn't out too long.
Yeah.
Again, for the second week in a row with the Chargers, we saw them come out, push the ball down the field, and for the second week in a row, we saw them not do anything in the second half of a football game. Now, again, I know that, to your point, they played really good teams, and there's tough matchups. I picked the 49ers and the Chiefs to be in the Super Bowl, so I wouldn't be shocked, right? They're both good teams. But, yes, I'm not giving up on them. The one thing I've liked about the Chargers is they have shown some toughness here as of late.
Yeah.
And I do respect that. Eckler's running the ball a little bit. Their run defense, yeah, it's still not perfect, but they're fighting and trying to stop. And with their schedule, Cardinals, Raiders, Dolphins, Titans, hey, it's going to be tough, but there's no team that's just going to totally outclass them. I'm not giving up on them. They do get in the playoffs, and they're healthy with the Joey Bosa and Derwin James and everybody in the offensive side. Yeah, they could definitely make a little run and scare you.
The second best team in that division, no shame when you have the Kansas City Chiefs, who might be, as Chris says, the best team in the NFL right now. Even better than the Philadelphia Eagles, the last team to lose on the season. That was last week. They bounced back, although it looked like that might not happen. They were down 10 in the fourth quarter. It is the first win for the Eagles since 2010 when they were trailing by 10 or more points entering the fourth quarter. So not a whole lot of comeback wins for the Eagles in the last decade. Jalen Hurts put the game on his legs. He had 86 yards rushing, his most since week 1. 49 of those in the fourth quarter. Was big at the end, converted the fourth down, and then ran into the end zone. So it wasn't pretty, but I don't know. In a season with, 17 games,
you're going to have something like this. Exactly right. You're right. And it's a Colts team that's kind of re-energized and found a new way to play. And I think we saw that again, where you got to give Jeff Saturday, some respect there. They're still fighting there in Indianapolis, and they're playing the proper way to what their team is. I think, again, we saw another game with Matt Ryan. They got the ball out of his hands quickly for the most part of the day. They stayed patient with the run game. I saw basically the same 2 or 3 runs that I talked about last week on the podcast, where I said I feel like that's what Jeff Saturday did. He simplified things, just said, wait, we're good at these ones. Let's just keep doing them. I felt like I saw that again last night. It was there. It was there to be had. The Colts messed up some situations. Jonathan Taylor fumbling as the pockets get, as the piles being pushed and all that. That was a big moment in the football game. But yeah, that's playing the Eagles right now. The Eagles have gotten to that point where they're good enough to turn the ball over maybe 1 or 2 times and still be like, no, we're still going to win this game. Mm-hmm. That's where they're special. And then if you do turn the ball over, then it's like, well, they're that good. You're in trouble now. But yeah, this was a dogfight. And I think you said it right. They found something just at the end of the game because their O-line could not dominate the Colts. And as we've been saying here on the podcast for the last few weeks, the Colts defense is phenomenal. It's phenomenal. It went into the game yesterday as a top 5 defense, and like I've been trying to say, that offense has been so bad, and they're still a top 5 defense. That tells you. That was the biggest thing to me. 8 people at the line of scrimmage because of that Seattle scheme. They couldn't overpower them in the run game. Because there's 8 people at the line of scrimmage so often, too, it's hard to, come off the edge on the read option at times and be free because there's always the extra guy there. And then they play a defense where they don't let you have big plays. It's press bail. It's cover 3, press bail. Jam them at the line of scrimmage, then just get back and don't let them go deep. So those were some issues for the Eagles. But the quarterback design run at an empty and him just scrambling on a few plays were the difference in the football game. And, yeah, it wasn't pretty. I'm not downgrading the Eagles by any stretch of the imagination. They played, I think, again, like we were just talking about with the Chargers, 2 teams that I think match up well with them in a lot of ways. And 2 defenses that have some elite things about them that canceled out some of the eliteness of what the Eagles usually can do to people.
Sure.
And I think that's kind of how I assess that game.
Yeah, it was tough for them on the ground. You had Jalen Hurts with the 86 yards, but Miles Sanders, 13 carries, 47
Traditional
yards.
run game was not there, right?
Not working through the air. I mean, Jalen Hurts only threw for 190 yards, so everything was very difficult offensively. And it looked like maybe the Colts, and we talked about this going into the game, they might be able to run the ball on this team. Jonathan Taylor, that first opening drive, 7 carries, 49 yards, and a touchdown. And then after that, 15 carries, just 35 yards in the final 10 drives. And so how much credit do we have to give to the newcomers for the Eagles here in Ndamukong Suh and Val Joseph? They combined for 7 tackles,
certainly
a
saw
sack,
them around the ball a lot.
Couple quarterback hits. And here was the big thing. They played 43 snaps.
Right.
So they did play a little bit, and that probably will go up as the weeks go on.
Yeah, no.
How much does that change their team?
Well, it just gives them more fresh bodies, depth, some versatility to change. Those are 2 big guys who understand, like, again, they can 2-gap both of them, which I think is very important in this day and age of the running quarterback and some of the teams you have to play. We talk about it so much, these quarterbacks and what they can do. It's like, oh, wait, they fake the ball this way, 2 guys pull the other way, and you're like, well, you're a guy short here in this gap now over here. And that's where the big D tackles like them can come into handy because they go, wait, I got 2 gaps. So now we have an extra gap for this guy out here, and now that play doesn't gash us as much. Yeah. So that's where they add a little value along with some depth. But also too,
you don't sound like you think it'll totally.
I don't think it's going to totally fix
difference.
them. I don't look at it and go, oh man, this did it. Yeah. They got it now. To me, the run game started off strong. Hey, we see this every game, a lot of games, right? Defenses, it's a first 15. The defense is kind of figuring out like how they're attacking us and getting a feel for the strength and what they need to do for guys blocking them and all of that. I think the other thing that just came to, at least to my mind as the game went on is just I feel like Philly got pretty aggressive as far as just going, wait, they don't have anybody that really scares us. Their downfield passing game, like we've talked about, doesn't really scare us. And I feel like that allowed them to play some aggressive coverages and some aggressive fronts to kind of slow down that run game as it went on.
Nick Sirianni was all fired up after the game. Of course, spent some time there coaching with the Colts.
I love this.
Here.
I love Sirianni for this right here.
Coach under Frank Reich.
Right.
Was the OC with Frank Reich.
Right.
And got his big break with the Eagles after that. So he was asked about Frank Reich, talked about him after this game, and I think we have the soundbite there. Kristen, this is what Sirianni had to say.
I'm emotional because I love Frank Reich. I really do, and he's one of the best damn football coaches I've ever been around. So, I was hoping that him and I would be able to coach against each other in this game. But he's one of my biggest mentors. I got my dad, I got Larry Karras, and I got Frank Reich. And Frank's such a good football coach. And you don't want to know what I think of if he should be here or not, but because you guys can probably imagine what I really think.
Dang.
Yeah, I love it. Sticking up for his guy. And again, we didn't get to discuss this a lot because you were on the beach putting suntan lotion on your wife. But either way, I don't think Frank Reich should have been fired. I'm one of those guys. I'm with him. I don't think it justified it. And the ugliness of the year, like we talked about, was forced on him by the benching of Matt Ryan. So that's where I just feel for him that way. I do, but that was a good win for the Eagles. That was. I don't care. People don't look at the record, whatever. The Colts match up. Again, this is a matchup league, and with that defense of Indianapolis and the scheme, that's the thing to watch for here. This is the time of year where codes get cracked a little bit, and teams start. It's a copycat league, right? You always hear that. So I think that's one thing to watch here going forward is, usually when it's a great team like Philadelphia, we saw this with Kansas City a few years ago, once one team can kind of lay out a blueprint a little bit of at least how to slow them down. Now the next team goes, oh, they did that. Oh, okay, I like that. I'm gonna take that. I'm gonna do that. Oh, and I got my own little thing I think that's gonna help here. And then the next team comes along and they go, oh, wait, okay, Washington did that. The Colts did that. Okay, wait, we can kind of combine that and do that. And it starts to give people an idea of like, all right, now we know how to defend these guys a little bit. So we'll see if that goes on going forward here. But, two really good defensive lines are the two things that are in common, slowing down the Eagles. I don't think there's a lot of teams that have the personnel that are going to do this to Philadelphia that often.
And if you're rooting for chaos and Jeff Saturday to get that main head coaching gig, get that interim tag out of there,
right?
It wasn't hurt by this game.
No, it definitely wasn't.
Won it.
100%.
And speaking of blueprints, the Patriots have the blueprint on how to beat the Jets. Goes back several years. They did it again.
How to Be Your Daddy by the New England Patriots.
10-3 in a pretty boring game. Offensively challenged game, some winds, some cold weather. Both quarterbacks, it was a struggle for both of them differently in different ways. But, yeah, the Patriots now have won 14 straight versus the Jets. This one came down to a last second with 5 seconds left. Marcus Jones, the rookie, 84-yard punt return, the second longest go-ahead fourth-quarter touchdown in Patriots history. It's the longest since 1962. Just a strange game, not one that you walk away with your, if you're any offensive player, with your head held high.
No.
But, I mean, Bill and the Patriots, as they've done in recent years, have found a way to beat the Jets. What'd you make of it?
Well, again, tough physical football game. Both defenses are really good. Both defenses have a great feel for how the other one wants to attack. The biggest thing, the biggest difference to me is like one team had an offensive line that could do something and the other one didn't. I mean, Mac Jones, they had a game plan of get the ball out, be able to throw the football that way, and then they could run the ball. The Jets couldn't run the ball at all and didn't have great pass protection and didn't really have a passing game you could talk to at all in any stretch of the imagination. It was ugly. To me, I know the game came down to that moment in that punt return, but the Patriots outplayed the Jets for the majority of the day. I didn't get done with this game and go, oh man, the Patriots got lucky here. They really, they had 2 missed field goals that were very makeable, right? They should have had the lead already. Honestly, Belichick in a field goal type of game, I thought he made a blunder towards the end of the game and went for it on fourth down one time when you went, wait, they can't get past the 30-yard line. Why wouldn't you just keep playing field position and, go for a field goal there? But either way, his defense was so dominant and, the Jets had no chance really in any phase or area of the football game as far as their offense is concerned.
All right, so this has unofficially become the Zach Wilson podcast. Ever since it was, a year and a half ago, 2 years ago now, I don't know how long ago that was, that you put Zach Wilson ahead of Trevor Lawrence in your rankings. This has become the Zach Wilson podcast. And you were complimentary of him a few weeks ago on some of the things that he's done. There's not a whole lot there, as you mentioned. Not a whole lot there, not a whole lot of protection. It's not like he has a ton of great
they've
weapons.
Been playing defense. They've run the ball, and they ask him to make 4 or 5 throws every game. That's what they've played. Why he's 5-2 during that stretch.
But this was rock bottom for the offense for the reasons that you mentioned. Let's take a look at how bad it was. If you're a Jets fan, look away right now. If you're watching on YouTube or on Peacock, I think we have all the numbers here. 6 first downs and 9 completions. They had more punts than completions. They had 10 punts in the game, just 103 total yards. Let's do this. Zach Wilson talked to the media after the game. Chris Pope, one of our homies, wrote in, Zach Wilson, that boy needs to grow up, take some accountability for only having just over 100 total yards on offense and 3 points on the board. This is what Zach Wilson had to say after the game in the press conference.
Super frustrating, it was a frustrating day, of course. I feel like I had some balls that got away from me, but we got to find a way as an offense. We got to do some digging, watch the film, and see what we can do better. It was the same. I mean, I think you got to put into account it's windy as hell out there too, guys. There's times where you can't just completely try and take these shots down the field. I mean, you can see how much it's moving out there. So, we were trying to establish the run game. Same with what the Patriots were trying to do as well. They're not out there chucking 30, 40-yard throws down the field either.
As an offense, though, I mean, when you guys are only able to score 3 points, the defense only lets up 3 points. I mean, do Do you feel like you let the defense down at all?
No.
Thank you. Room's open.
All right, so that last answer is getting a lot of play out there.
Well, we're just in the era of anything he does, we're going to jump on. Listen, I wish he would have answered that differently, too. It's the last question of the press conference, a throwaway. And I think sometimes guys are just like, did we let them down? No, I don't know. They've had games where they let up 30 points. Did you ask me did they let us down when they let up 30-something points?
The reason I don't like that question is because it's not a question. It's just a test.
Right.
The reporter is just there's one way to answer that question.
Right.
Of course, right. Of course you scored 3 points. And of course you feel like you wanted to do better.
Yeah.
Right? And there's one you're supposed to say, "Oh, yes, the defense played their hearts out and we would have loved to have gotten them." It's a test, it's not a question.
Yeah.
You know what answer you're supposed to get. And if they don't give that answer, then you can go, "Oh, look at this guy. He doesn't take accountability and all." I think that's BS.
Yeah, well, they're fishing. They're fishing. I wish you would have answered it more like you're talking about too. But I'm
again,
not going to eviscerate them over it. That's what's funny.
But do you feel like you let them down? The only way you can feel like you really, of course, yes, your performance wasn't there. But if they're trying to score, right? It's like as long as I tell my kids that, as long as you're trying your best and doing all you can, it's like you have nothing to feel ashamed about.
Well, you could be like, no, I didn't let them down. We're professionals, and it wasn't our day, and we're going to work tomorrow, and we're going to go it again, right?
Yeah. So I don't like the question as much as you're right. If he just would have answered it the way that everyone answers it,
man, I feel like we let the defense down. Damn, I played like crap today. The offense played like crap. They played a game that they held the Patriots to 3 points. It's a game you'd think they played well enough for us to win. If he would have said that, of course, that's what I would have liked. But it is also at the end of a day where, he just got his ass beat. They didn't play very well. He's probably freezing cold. He's tired, and he's answering questions, and he said that. So, okay. So it wasn't the greatest answer. But it's just it's the theme of look at anything we can to jump on Zach Wilson. That's where I defend it.
The real problem comes if it's coming from inside the locker room.
Right.
And there are maybe some reports out there that the players inside the locker room, some players, you never know who those players are. Are they disgruntled players themselves, but are frustrated with the offense, frustrated with Zach Wilson?
Yeah.
We don't know what he's like inside that locker room.
Right.
That would be when it starts to crack, right? Is when it's not just Zach Wilson versus the media, it's Zach Wilson versus the players. Is there any indication from you or from anything you've heard that there's growing frustration with him, like he's not grasping the playbook? He's not
I don't
connecting
know.
with the guys.
I don't see that in the plays either. I don't look at it when I watch them on film and go, oh, man, they're dumbing it down. They really have to, do this to them. I think they're playing a team, first off, that's really good and has a good feel for them. And if I go back to the first game, there wasn't 3 people open the whole game. Now, he threw 2 out of his 3 dumb interceptions in that football game. But I don't know. So far, too, on social media, every play I've seen of the Jets game, everybody's covered, but they're all going, look, Zach Wilson didn't do this and he didn't do that. And I want to be like, but neither did this guy do that or this guy do that. And the play sucks, and they're all over it. So what do you want to say? There's a little bit of a predictability that we've talked about over the last few weeks with their offense, too, where everything is over the middle. Everything. And you watch them for the most part. They had the game against Buffalo is the only game where they kind of broke those tendencies. And I think they realized that they were so strong. But yesterday it looked like it went back to that. And then to his point, it did seem like it was a day where it was windy enough to where it was affecting the play. And it seemed like it was windy enough to where New England knew not to throw the ball down the field a whole lot. And the Jets, not that they were throwing bombs away, but were certainly throwing more aggressive throws than New England. So, they were ready to play in those elements and had more of a plan for it, too. And I would push back against that as well.
There's numbers to back up what you just said. So Mac Jones's average depth of target was 4.6 yards down the field. That was the lowest this week in the NFL.
Yeah.
Zach Wilson was 10.6 yards average depth of target. That was the 3rd highest this week in the NFL. So, the Jets were more aggressive, higher level of difficulty, as Zach Wilson also said to. And I know some people are probably going to get him on that, like an excuse, the windy, da-da-da-da. You ask a question looking for information, and that's a legitimate part of the game.
I know.
That the wind was affecting how you threw the ball. And so it is reality for Zach Wilson. So I won't knock him as much for saying that. But there are some fans out there who are.
Sure.
I want to get Jackson. Valente says, to you, how does Zach Wilson, if possible, fix these mistakes? Seems like his footwork in the pocket's off. He's not seeing the field clearly. Wide receivers are frustrated. And Dan Orlovsky pointed out that he might not even know his own playbook. Now, you said some of this stuff already.
Yeah.
But do you see the footwork stuff?
That's kind of a low blow by Dan Orlovsky. I can't really lie about that. Just to... you're going to show one play on Twitter not really know the rules of the play and then say the guy doesn't know a playbook. I mean, I got respect for Dan big time in a lot of ways, but like to just throw that out there.
So we're showing Dan's tweet now, and he picks out one play. And what is he saying on this play?
And by the way, everybody's going over the middle, and nobody's open. Like I'd like to just explain to everybody, but let's just blame Zach Wilson. It's Zach Wilson's fault. Now, yeah, there's a play he's explaining where there's two receivers to the left. One's running a shallow cross. One's running a deep in cut. And then on the right, we have a post route and then a wheel route by the tight end who kind of chip blocked, right? So, what Dan is trying to say here is, hey, he threw the ball to the backside post route, and it looks like it was supposed to be a deep post down the middle of the field, and he threw it quickly. And now he's questioning whether he knew the playbook. What I would say is, first off, I have some experience with this type of play where in this coverage right here, sometimes the guy that's supposed to run the deep post, the big post as he calls it in this video, it converts because of the coverage into maybe what we would call a glance or a skinny post. And his route and what his eyes look like show me that he was running the skinny post, not the big post that Dan Orlovsky is talking about. He runs 7 steps. He puts his foot in the ground and looks back at the ball like he's supposed to get the ball right around there. Now, it's a crap throw, and Zach Wilson, to our homie's point, his feet are off. He looks to the left at first and then comes back. It's like he looked to the left, and let's see if we can I want to watch the start of the play again too. Looks to the left like, oh, wait, maybe this is cover 3 or something of that nature here at first, and then realizes, wait, this is the coverage the coach told me to get back to the skinny post. Again, that's where I don't like making comments like I don't know if he doesn't know the playbook when it looks like there's some different rules here, and I've had this rule in place in one of the offenses I was in. So that's where I'm not sure, and again, he played like crap yesterday. I know it hasn't been beautiful. I don't sit here, though, through the 5-game win streak and come away and go, man, he's missing plays and throws all over the field. That's how I judge it off of. That's what I do. Mm-hmm. And I'm not afraid, even though, because I made the guy my number 1 quarterback, I don't give a shit. Like, my ego is not that big, and nor do I care to, like, say, hey, I was wrong, and this guy's playing like crap right now. I mean, anybody that's been listening to me knows I will do that. Yesterday was crappy. But it was a shitty offensive performance too. And then they to me, one of their biggest problems is some of the young guys just talk too much. That'd be the other thing I'd say. Zach could answer that question better. Garrett Wilson's got to stop acting like he's the State of the Union addresser of the team now. Like he's been around and gone to 7 Pro Bowls. You got Elijah Moore talking like he's a bona fide superstar and he should be able to just call for the ball and I should be traded when I want to be like, get out of here. So those are some of the biggest issues around this issue as well as far as the Jets. But that was ugly. And we'll see. I'll watch this film, and I'll let you know. And if I see people wide open, then I'll go, man, Zach was horrible. Yeah. But I know in the game 2 games ago against the Bills, he was really good. And I know in the 2 games before that against the Patriots where it wasn't good, I came away going, there wasn't like 4 people open the whole day. He threw the ball crappy. I get that. So, and again, the other thing I just want to say is they're 5-2 with him as a starter. They're 5-2. I don't, and it's a weird thing. I know it was ugly, but it's weird. I've never seen a fan base that roots for their team to fail more than the Jets.
Chances are you're going to look at the tape and not see a whole lot of wide open receivers.
Well, that's right. I want somebody to show me on Twitter. I mean, Dan Orlovsky, anybody, show me on Twitter plays where guys are wide open and that he's missing it. Again, I'll get there. I'll probably get there tomorrow before I start to watch that film. But that's where I just want to. He showed me a play where everybody was blanketed, and he's been under pressure the whole game already to that point, and now we're gonna talk about if he doesn't know the playbook, and I just don't think that's a fair assessment to just throw on somebody.
Yeah, Patriots able to bring the pressure. Matt Judon had another sack and a half. He's got 13 sacks this season, most by any player under Bill Belichick. And yes, the Patriots defense has now allowed 7.7 points per game during their 3-game winning streak. They're pretty good. That defense is pretty good on any quarterback out there.
They definitely
All right,
are.
we could talk about Zach Wilson forever on this podcast, right?
Yeah.
And maybe we should, because that is some of the most entertaining time that we have. Yeah, Zach Wilson Unbuttoned.
Well,
We're changing the name of the podcast.
Well, it's again, I don't want to say this, but it's crazy. Is I feel like it's very similar to Josh Allen. And again, I'm not trying to say he's Josh Allen by any stretch of the imagination at this point. Okay, but I do feel like it's just look for anything to jump on him. And Josh Allen, like in his second year when they were going to the playoffs, It was just every time he made a bad throw, they were like, hey, let's stop the game and break it down and tell everybody why he shouldn't have been drafted out of Wyoming. And it's just look for anything all the time. And that's what bothers me. And that's why if you don't start to show me tangible evidence of people wide open and stuff like that, then I'm going to clap back at you because I'm kind of like, I'm kind of sick of that.
Well, I can show you someone wide open.
Yeah.
Davante Adams at the end of that Raiders and Broncos game in overtime.
Right.
As we transition to our final close game in this section that was titled The Big Turkey. These are dramatic finishes right here as Pete's going to go in with a Thanksgiving theme, in case you didn't pick up on that. Davante Adams was wide open against the Broncos. Wow, how unfortunate for the Broncos, right? The best part of their team. Got some great defensive backs. Passing defense. It's like might be the best in the NFL. And the signature play at the end of that one is Davante Adams just running wide open into the end zone in overtime for a game-winning touchdown. The Broncos have found another way to lose a game this year.
It is I feel bad in some ways for Nathaniel Hackett and some of the coaches out there, E.J. Evero, that defense. You know, the encouraging thing was it was a day where the pass game did some stuff. I mean, they made a few plays in the pass game. It wasn't like it was totally horrible.
The Broncos you're talking about?
Russell Wilson and company, it wasn't like some of the games we've seen earlier in the year where you just go, wow, they can't do anything. They can't get anything going. You know, they did make some big plays. It is all over the place. There's no doubt. You know, the thing that's stinky, too, is the Raiders' defense is not very good. So you would expect that type of performance. I think the headline of this game to me is that McDaniels has cracked the code a little bit on this defense. He's the only guy this year that's moved the ball on Denver like this. This is the second time they played him. It's the second time that I believe Josh Jacobs ran for 100 yards in the first matchup, and they had their way with him in the pass game the first matchup too. So there's obviously a great understanding there of the rules of the defense and how to expose it. And I think that's why we saw, you know, not only at the end of the game, but even the first touchdown pass of the game to Davante Adams, he was wide open, if I remember correctly. So they obviously had a good feel. It was a good win for the Raiders, and I'm glad. A little bit like Zach Wilson, I feel like everybody just wants to jump on Josh McDaniels, and there's a little more to this story and context, and I think, than just, oh, wait, they're 3-7 and we should fire him. And I just don't think that's a fair assessment, so I'm glad they got that win.
Yeah, Josh Jacobs with 109 yards rushing. Yeah, Derek Carr who went over 300 yards passing against that great defense. And then you had Davante Adams, 141 yards. He's the first player in Raiders history with 125 or more receiving yards in 3 straight games. So they are rolling right now. And I think we have the dots of the overtime touchdown winning catch. If you can dissect what happened here, Adams had 11.9 yards of separation from Patrick Surtain, your number one corner.
My number one corner.
Dusted.
Well, this is where it's cool, right? And this is where they played the greatness of the Broncos defense against them. You know how they, like, your greatest strength is your great. They're really well coached. They understand what you're trying to do. You know, this is a play here, not similar to the play we just talked about with the Jets a little bit, where it's a guy running the post on the left, number 84, right? On the right side, you got a shallow cross and a guy that's trying to make it, the guy I'm talking about, the guy, Davante Adams, number 17, trying to make it look like he's going to run the deep cross over the top of that shallow crosser, right? And I'm sure they ran this play a few times, and they run this play every game. Everybody does. And I think Patrick Surtain saw that. He probably saw number 10 go shallow. He sees the formation. He saw Davante Adams start to cross the field, and he goes, oh, here it comes. Post, deep crosser, shallow crosser. I'm going to undercut this so he can't, make a play. But I'm sure this is probably, I'm going to guess they've already run this play during the game. Not this play, but the play where he crosses.
Yeah.
And they probably went, Surtain was really aggressive undercutting this. And they probably held this in their back pocket for a moment like this to go, okay, let's call the okie doke here. Don't cross. Stop when you get in the middle. Come back out. And Surtain, who was still running to defend the cross, good night, game over, see you later.
So you would guess with your experience with Josh McDaniels that was a play called by McDaniels.
Yes.
It wasn't just a feel thing
No,
from
it wasn't
Davante
a feel
Adams,
thing. It was a thing where they saw it on pictures. I wouldn't be shocked if it was in the game plan all week of, hey, let's have this in here. And, of course, they overplay this concept, so we got something off of it. We think it could get him. I would bet more than likely, knowing Josh McDaniels and being around him, and even a guy like Derek Carr, that it's something they spotted earlier in the game. So I'll be interested to see when I watch that. But that was a very impressive performance. And, it's I'm not shocked because the Raiders, even though it's a new coaching staff, do have a little culture of I understand they went to the playoffs last year. There's a little toughness there. Derek Carr's got some toughness. Davante Adams got some toughness, no doubt about it. That was a big win for them, And then what adds to it also, not only the win, but then the end of the game shenanigans by Russell Wilson, right? Where he should have taken a sack.
So here's the good with the bad. Russell Wilson, when they blitzed him, was pretty efficient.
Right.
11 of 12, 160 yards.
I don't know why you would blitz Russell Wilson right now. That was you know me. Struggling quarterbacks, what do I always say?
Yeah, don't make it easy.
Don't make it. Oh, they're blitzing. Here's my one-on-one. I don't have to read anything. And I've had a horrible year of reading stuff.
Yeah.
So now you don't make me read anything. I did not understand that about the game yesterday. I will say that. As I watched a few times, I kept going, why are they putting him in the only position he's shown to be able to succeed this year? Why? So that was a little surprising. Sorry,
but like you brought up, he threw that incomplete pass on 3rd and 10. It was after the 2-minute warning.
Yep.
It gave Las Vegas a minute 43, so Raiders were out of timeouts.
Yes.
So they could have run it down to a minute. Raiders would have had less time. Maybe they still would have gotten in field goal range.
Yep. Let alone, I think he really has the crosser, and like a guy like Russell Wilson is making $45 million a year, I'd go throw with the rifle, hit him in the chest. I mean...
So it was doubly bad.
To me, it was doubly bad because, one, yes, the situation itself. Like, if you know you're not going to throw it or you're not going to throw it with the intent to complete it, then go down and take the sack and let the clock run.
Yeah.
Right? Instead, but what I want to say is, wait, this is Russell freaking Wilson. We're talking about a Hall of Famer here. Like, there's a guy, I think it was Cortland Sutton. Again, I got a lot of damn plays and names and shit going through my head right now. I'm pretty sure it was Cortland Sutton where I go, he's got him beat by a step. Hit him in the chest. Game over. See you later. Go back to Las Vegas. Instead, he does that, and now they're up by 3, and he gives them a chance not only to go kick the field goal to tie it, but now have plenty of time to go, hey, if you want to go down and score a touchdown and beat us, I've thrown the ball in the dirt for you to do that. Thank you. And remember me next time I come to Las Vegas. Comp me at the Wynn Hotel, all right? I mean, so that's where it's a little crazy. They skirted the touchdown, but it got dicey because of that decision, and the Raiders were right down there with a chance to score.
Denver has scored 14.7 points per game. That is dead last in the NFL. If they had scored just 18 points every game, that would be still 6th worst in the NFL.
Gosh.
But they would have a 7-3 record. And Pete, does that mean that this game would have been a loss for them? Because I would argue that if they scored 18 points per game, this game would have been a win because they would have won 18-16 in regulation there, right? 8-2. We're going to change it to 8-2. So they scored 18 points in regulation every game. They'd be 8-2. That's just how
I
good
hope
that
they don't
defense
fire
has been.
Nathaniel Hackett here either.
He gave up his play calling duties for the first time.
Right, which is a shame. It's laughable. It's laughable. I just want to go, he's got to give up his play calling duties because the quarterback won't throw to anybody that's open. Again, that's where it's a little different to me with the Russell Wilson, Zach Wilson thing, right? The Wilsons here, we talk about it. We've shown some plays on social media. Everybody who's doing the games that does it, we can show you plays where people are wide open and he doesn't throw it to them, and we don't know why. But now the coach has to answer those questions, give up his play calling duty, even though people have been open for you to be good. But we have to act like we have to go back to the drawing board and figure it out and play the politics of bullshit of the sport because the quarterback. And that's where I will defend Nathaniel Hackett right now. Again, there's issues, obviously, but the biggest issue is still the quarterback of that team.
Yeah, I think they had a better offensive game against the Raiders last time.
They did.
They
100%.
played the Raiders. So
yeah.
It didn't help, at least versus this specific opponent on this specific week. Now we get to our next section, which we like to call Damn Okay.
Damn. I'm okay. Damn. I'm okay. Yeah, no, yes. I'm okay. The legal gambleizing. Oh, baby. I am Chris Sims. I'm okay. Damn. Okay.
And this section has been titled, in honor of Thanksgiving coming up here, the Mashed Potatoes Edition. This is the NFC East Blowout Edition, as we do our Damn Okays as well. We start with the Dallas Cowboys throttling the Minnesota Vikings. Felt so bad for Mike Florio. Mike's Vikings fan. Everyone knows that, but he doesn't want to get hoodwinked, right? He doesn't want to buy in.
And he sent his son up to this game.
Oh no,
his son Alex went to this game.
He was so reluctant to get roped into the Vikings. He was the one that was like, pump the brakes. Let's not get too excited about this team. They haven't beat anyone of note yet, and then they come back and beat the Bills, and he goes all in. You could tell. He was like, finally, they've arrived. I think he was they had him number 1, the Vikings number 1 in his power rankings. He was like, I'm all in. And then they go.
Now he'll give them the Italian vendetta.
Yeah.
And he'll drop them like 1212th in the rankings because he's mad at them.
He might be done with them forever now. This is an embarrassment to Mike Florio.
If he didn't give up on them by now, he ain't giving up on them.
40-3. Looked like maybe the Vikings gave up on themselves at some points in this game. But we're going to give the damn okay to a guy you've been pumping up for a couple years here on the podcast. Tony Pollard was the guy, even though Zeke came back.
Yeah.
A little limited, missed the last couple of games with injury, but worked in, did score a touchdown. But Pollard was the man. Some big plays out there. The running game, the passing game, 80 yards on the ground, 109 through the air. I mean, that guy looked like the best running back on that team, and in this game, he looked like one of the better running backs in the league.
I think it's not like crazy to say that he's one of those kind of guys. I mean, when you talk about running backs who are in space, who are dangerous in the football, I mean, you're crazy not to bring up Tony Pollard's name. I mean, how many weeks in a row do we got to watch the guy run for a 50-yard touchdown before we start to go, he's kind of good. I mean, it's run game, pass game. Prescott, maybe one of his best games of the year. That was impressive. Dallas, they dominated really in every phase, other than the first ugly field goal drive of the Vikings where they kind of gutted it out and got down there, and that wasn't even easy. After that, there was nothing to speak of. I think the thing you look at with Minnesota is, one, I don't think their running game is as dominant as people think it is with Dalvin Cook. I think the numbers are maybe. The numbers actually are kind of actually lower than what you expect. I think we view them as better than what they actually are, is what I'm saying. Yeah. And that's where I'm trying to get to here, where they didn't pose the same problems as the Packers did as far as the run game. And then the other aspect, too, that I think is a little different because of the RPOs and the quick passing game that the Packers brought to the table, and hopefully the fact that the Cowboys realized, wait, we can't play these run defenses and then play bump in your face and let a guy like Justin Jefferson just have a one-on-one day on us like Christian Watson did to them last week. To me, one of the things I looked at early on in the football game is I saw Dallas crowd the line of scrimmage, and when it was a play-action pass or a pass, they backed out, and it wasn't man-to-man coverage. They played zones, and they're a good zone football team, and they're creative doing that. And when you do play zones, the quarterback's got to drop back, read the coverage. He passed the ball maybe one extra time. Boom, Micah Parsons hits you from behind, and now you strip sack fumble or something like that. But that to me, again, is just the Cowboys can go to the Super Bowl. They show games, quarters, moments of going, that's like an extremely dominant special football team. And when their offense plays like that and their defense doesn't play overly crazy aggressive like that, you could see what they can do. And it's a misleading loss. Minnesota's not 37 points worse than Dallas, but I do think it showed some of the things we've talked about with Minnesota, why I never viewed them as one of the top teams in football. And it's 3 weeks in a row they've been outplayed. It's just they're fortunate they're 2-1 in that stretch, where the other team played better than them, but they won 2 of them. There's something to that. I don't want to take away the credit, certainly, but that was an ass-whooping yesterday.
Yeah, the Cowboys scored on their first 7 possessions. 37-point victory.
Gosh, was it the first 7?
Yeah, 4 touchdowns, 3 field goals.
Woo!
It was the biggest Cowboys road win in franchise history for a franchise that's been pretty good in their history. And yeah, defensively they were dominant too. 7 sacks, most in a single game since 2008. Micah Parsons had a couple there. DeMarcus Lawrence was awesome once again for them. So it was just total domination. And the Cowboys, you think maybe they don't need any more talent, but who knows? Maybe they'll get some, right? Rumors out there that perhaps Odell Beckham Jr. is on the way,
right?
So I think I've heard out there Cowboys, Giants are showing some interest in Odell, bring him back home. So here's some tweets. Odell was watching the Cowboys game. He goes, they went crazy today with the eye emoji. And then DeMarcus Lawrence wrote back, they sure did. Make the right decision. Then Micah Parsons, the eye emoji 3 times over, and he goes, come on then.
Yeah. He's going to Dallas. He's going.
You think so?
I do. I don't think he's going to go to the Giants. I don't think so.
Is that just you protecting yourself? You're just like, I don't want to get my hopes up.
I would love it. I would love it.
But you think he'll
I've heard that, that I've heard from teams, and I've heard that there was interest as far as Giants and Odell even wanting to flirt with the Giants once again, right? The price tag's going to be interesting, as you've heard me say. I know that's a thing here. The teams are a little taken back by how much money he was asking for or expecting. I think he's looking for a little security here, but. Yeah, it's funny. It seems like the Dallas, and I haven't snooped around about this over the last 2 weeks. I kind of let it go. It doesn't seem like the Buffalo thing is percolating like it was, which I don't know why. And just, again, Ahmed, people who are from that region of the country, he's from Louisiana. It's Dallas's king there in professional sports. They own that region of the country. I mean, that's a big deal. It's one of those things where you're from Louisiana and, grandma, grandpa, and uncle are like, hey, you going to go play with the Cowboys? You going to play with the Cowboys? I mean, mom and dad are saying it. It's just, I feel like it's going that way. And, they have all the things we've talked about that make sense for him and he makes sense for them. And it certainly seems like it could be a match made in heaven, no question.
It does. And it's just money.
Yeah.
It's just money at this point.
That's going to be the big
draft
thing.
Capital.
Right.
It's just money, and it may be a longer-term deal than you might want, but you're close. You're close. You got the weapons, and you could add Odell Beckham there. So we'll see if that happens for the Cowboys that are very close to the Philadelphia Eagles in how they're looking on the field right now. And you've been saying that for a long time, that you wouldn't be surprised if the Cowboys, you're like, there's not much separating these two teams. And I think probably more people are thinking that after this game.
Again, I don't, and that's no disrespect to the Eagles. Again, I really, but I look at Dallas as, hey, the Dallas, the Eagles, the 49ers, the Kansas City Chiefs, the Tennessee Titans, the Buffalo Bills, the Baltimore Ravens. I look at those teams that just go, and I'm probably missing somebody else, they can match up against any team in football. There's no team where I'd ever go, oh, that's, hey, some might be worse or better, but nothing's ever going to be like, oh, wow, they got a real problem here today with this matchup.
And you look at the NFC East, there are three really good teams in this division. You got the Eagles, you got the Cowboys, and you got the Commanders here too. We'll get to your Giants here in a second. Okay, Pete told me to shut up. He doesn't like it. Pete's still on the bandwagon. We'll get to the Giants and the Lions game here shortly, but now it is the Commanders who looked really good. I mean, this was a dominant victory against a team that is used to giving up dominant victories. The Houston Texans, 23-10, but they did all the right things. It was 4 sacks, 6 quarterback hits, 5 tackles for a loss. You had Jonathan Allen looking spry on that defensive line. Chase Young's not. We're going to see him next game come back, and so that's going to be very scary. The Commanders, even though this wasn't a game that you look at and you're like, oh, Houston Texans, they're supposed to beat them. What they did against the Eagles, they're starting to look like a team like this makes sense how they could get into the playoffs and then give some teams some trouble. Do you agree with that?
I agree with that, Ahmed. And let's take into context too, like what you're saying with Houston. Houston played the Giants last week, and it was a close football game. I mean, damn, they drove down the field. Dameon Pierce fumbled inside the 20-yard line. He threw an interception in the end zone to the Giants. So Houston, even though their record's not great, they've been a pain in the butt. Before that, they played the Philadelphia Eagles. It was 14-14 at halftime. So they're not a team that anybody's really just blown off the field. And to your point here with what they did and how they played, this game was more dominant than 23-10. They were clearly in control of the football game throughout. And Washington, to what you're saying, Ahmed, watch out. They're a team, yes, that I look at. They get in the playoffs, they could be scary. For the second week in a row here, we're talking about run game that gets going a little bit, and they don't need much of a run game before then. Oh no, now it's great looks for Curtis Samuel and Terry McLaurin, and then Heineke, we know he's going to make a handful of plays, but yeah, I just look at that and go, their defense is special and can keep them against anybody, and the offense has got it going now. And even with that yesterday, there was a few times in my row I wrote Heineke. He missed some big throws in the game where there were some people that were wide open for some huge passes. He missed them, but it didn't matter, for the most part, the way they controlled the game. The defense get the ball back, they run the ball, and he found his rhythm again, and they made some plays. But game was 23-3 or 20-0, right? Or 20-3 for a long time, and you felt like, man, Washington kind of took their foot off the gas pedal, and they got a garbage time touchdown, the Texans.
Well, at halftime, Washington had 246 total yards. Houston had 5. the lowest by any team in the first half of this season, which I would have thought it would go back many seasons, but I mean, maybe it does, but no team had just had 5 yards at halftime. Washington, they had that 1-4 start. Now they've won 5 of their last 6 games. I think we have a graphic on how much the defense has turned things around. They've figured things out here in this 6-game stretch here. They're allowing 10 fewer points per game now in the last 6 games as opposed to the first 5 games of the season. Takeaways is another huge number. The first 5 games, it was just 1 takeaway. Last 6 games, it is 12. And so, yeah, they're doing all the things that you look at. You look at that, you're like, that's a team that could do some damage in the playoffs.
Yeah, they're creative. They're creative on the defensive back end as far as coverages. And then the front four, Ahmed, as we talked about a little last night, it's just special. I mean, there's no other way to say it. It's the most dominant duo of defensive tackles in the game. Montez Sweat's probably one of the most underrated pass rushers in football. And then, to have Chase Young coming back, watch out. Washington is definitely one of those teams that could upset some of our pretty playoff matchups that we might want to see, in the divisional round or whatever. Yeah. And we go, man, Washington's here. I wanted to see, Eagles, Cowboys, and they upset one of those teams or something like that. They're definitely capable of that.
They're like, all right, let's get behind Taylor Heineke, and then they go.
And they went behind Heineke. Thank you for that. I'm glad you led me there because Ron Rivera said it's him going forward. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, we knew that, and it should be that. And I feel bad for Carson Wentz in a lot of ways because a lot of problems that were there when he was the starting quarterback were not because of him. But either way, you got to ride this hot hand, and the team does seem to rally around Heineke. That seems to be a real tangible thing.
And now Houston currently owns the number 1 and number 7 overall picks in the 2023 draft, thanks to that trade with Cleveland.
Yeah.
So
wow.
2 in the top 10 right now. The Detroit Lions are screwing up their draft pick. I'll tell you that.
How
right
dare
now.
they?
Although they get the Rams one, which is starting to look better and better as the year
Yes,
goes
it
on.
is.
But damn okay to Aleem McNeil for the Lions. Had a sack, 3 quarterback hits, 3 tackles for a loss.
Yeah.
An NFL high 10 quarterback pressures this week per PFF. Sounds like a Big Butt of the Week award winner.
It certainly does.
As the Lions came back, didn't come back. They just beat the Giants in this one.
Well, they were down 6-3.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, it was a big comeback.
Huge comeback. 31-18, the final score. And let me just go. Trist and Stout, good name. Trist and Stout tweeted in. Says,
Trist and Shout.
Oh, Shout. That's right. Okay, Trist
to
and
play
Shout.
on words, right? Like
That's
twist
right.
and
I
shout.
thought it was like Stout defense or something like that, but you're right. Trist and Shout. Can we get a damn okay for the Lions defense? 3 weeks in a row, defensive stands have won the Lions games this week, holding Saquon to 22 yards. One of the weakest units in the league through 8 weeks has really stepped up the past few weeks. Have they turned things? Is this real? Is this what we're going to expect now from the Lions going forward? Have they turned a corner?
I think they've turned a corner in the fact that, it's not just like you're not playing the Lions anymore and you can look at it and go, we're just going to steamroll them and we're scoring 30 points. I know Justin Fields and company did, but that's an offense that's pretty special, and people are trying to still figure out the answers of how to defend them. But between yesterday and the way they looked, 2 weeks before this against the Green Bay Packers, where, again, Green Bay moved the ball, made some mistakes, but at least it was a positive day defensively. McNeil it was one of those where I kept looking up going, how is Big 54 in the backfield so much? I love the Liam McNeil. Remember, he was one of our top D tackles at NC State, the year he came out. He's a load to move, but I think that was the story of the game. It was kind of, you stole what the Giants usually do. You guys ran the ball. You guys stopped the run. You guys caused the turnover to give yourself the extra possession. It was 6-3, and I'm going, man, the Giants got a hold of this. I think we're okay. We're gonna be all right. They get the ball back, and then the play of the day happened. And to me, the game was never the same. And again, I know there's probably more to it than that, but I'm trying to watch 8 games at 1 o'clock, and in my notes, it was the one thing I wrote, it was the interception, play action pass. Aidan Hutchinson puts his big hands up like a TJ Watt, comes down with the INT, and your Lions go score a touchdown, get a stop, get the ball back, score before the half, and all of a sudden it's 17-6 Lions, and the Giants were in deep crap and unable to do anything really.
And that interception snapped a streak of 6 straight games without a pick for Daniel Jones. Had another one later in the game, another rookie for the Lions, Kirby Joseph coming through, 2 interceptions on the day for for Daniel Jones. And so, yeah, Aidan Hutchinson now Defensive Rookie of the Year. Perhaps maybe he's getting in that conversation. Sauce Gardner still the favorite. Then you got Tariq Woolen. But then third, most likely, according to BetMGM, is Aidan Hutchinson.
Well, he's just such a good football player. You know, he hasn't been like a dominant pass rusher, but it's all the tools you need are there. And he's just a really good football player in the fact of, I mean, you see him dropping in zone coverage. He's got good awareness. He's very good and disruptive in the run game. It's probably where he's been his best, shooting gaps, getting skinny, causing disruption in the backfield, running down a run play to the right, and he's on the left, and he comes behind the line of scrimmage and stops it. I mean, that's where I feel like I've noticed him more than anything. But yeah, I mean, it was like after that point and that interception, it was like the Giants couldn't stop Detroit for the rest of the day. Detroit really kind of just went up and down the field and then made the Giants into a passing football team. And the Giants aren't a passing football team. That's not what they want to be. Yeah, Daniel Jones, you talk about he threw the second interception. It was a fourth down. He kind of had to force the throw. You know, they were down 24-6 at the time, I believe. So it was one of those where you can live with that interception. But yeah, that's where I hope people can understand like the same trepidation I've had about saying the Vikings are like one of the best teams in football. It's the same thing with the Giants. The game has to go a certain way. The Giants don't have much versatility in how they can win the game. You know, it's we know how they have to play. And if you're more than, 7 points, 10 points late in the football game, I mean, that just seems like it's a lot for the Giants to overcome, or they got to make something happen and make a big turnover, or you got to make a mistake, which was what they did do in some of those games. They were down 7 and 10.
Well, it seemed like it was set up for the Giants in this game because you're going against the second worst running defense in the NFL. So you got Saquon Barkley, who ran the ball 15 times, had 0 longer than 4 yards, which is crazy. So could not break the big one. Could not even break one more than 5 yards in this game.
Close. No, Daniel Jones was the only thing that happened in the run game.
Yeah, and so they could not run on this Detroit defense. That might be getting better, and they have their first 3-game win streak since 2017. We'd be remiss not to mention Jamal Williams, too. 3 touchdowns, has 12 on the season.
That's amazing.
Leads the NFL right now. He's the first player with 2 or more rushing touchdowns in 5 of his first 10 games since LaDainian Tomlinson. They weren't, epic runs. They were down by the goal line, but
there's a skill to that.
He's got a nose for the end zone.
Exactly right. There's a skill to that. There's certain guys like that's where I love like Tony Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott. Ezekiel Elliott, give him the ball inside the 5, short yardage situation. He's got power. He's got a great feel of kind of where to lean, where to go in those type of plays. Jamal Williams is very good at that. And I just look at them too, I also look and just go, man, can DeAndre Swift get totally healthy to where we can see him, unleashed again? Because there's plays in that game, even in last week, where I go, hey, I like Jamal Williams and I like the other running backs they got, but if that was DeAndre Swift, that was an extra 20 yards on that play. There's some meat being left on the bone because they don't have a really talented, explosive guy. Swift is clearly that guy for their offense and their running backs.
They are rolling now, though, the Detroit Lions, and now they will get embarrassed on national television for everyone to see.
No, they won't.
It's what happens a lot of times. We get our hopes up. We're like Mike Florio and the Vikings. We get our hopes up.
I think you guys are going to be you're going to be a pain for their defense.
Oh, no.
I do think that. Now, can you corral, number 17 at 12:30 on a Thursday afternoon?
Pete wants to know who's more likely to be embarrassed on Thanksgiving, the Giants versus the Cowboys or my Lions against the Buffalo Bills? The right answer is both. We're both going to be embarrassed.
I think if there was an embarrassing
spread is 9 for both games.
I'd be more scared maybe for the Giants right now to get blown out than I would be Detroit.
Yeah. Pete's scared too.
Yeah.
All right. So the Bills, though, they had a lot going on this week. As we move on to the stuffing section of our Monday recap pod, good teams taking care of business.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what the Bills did here. It wasn't anything crazy. The Browns actually had some chances to take a couple touchdown lead early in the game.
The Browns controlled the game, Ahmed. I'm glad you started there. Early on in the football game, I mean, the Browns were playing better football for the first quarter and a half of the game. I want to say around there. And to your point, you're talking about when they got down there, right, and had to settle for a field goal to go up 10-3. And they had the both drop touchdown passes down the middle.
Yeah.
We had, I can't remember, it was I can't remember who the 2 guys were. It might have been
Pharaoh Brown was one of them.
Okay. But either way, 2 balls down the middle where you went, they could have came up with that. put themselves in the driver's seat. And that, I don't know, that point, I guess the game was 7-3 Bills at that point, or 7-3 Browns, excuse me, and they could have gone up 14-3.
Yeah.
Instead, only go up 10-3, and then have the subsequent drive of Jacoby Brissett fumbling the quarterback snap, which I believe was either the next drive or the drive after that. So it was a game early on where you went, man, Buffalo doesn't look like Buffalo here. Yeah. They might get caught off guard here today. And passing game, people were wide open. Jacoby Brissett was tearing them apart. Josh Allen didn't look very good. But slowly but surely, the Bills got it going. And really, I would say about halfway through the second quarter, started to kind of control the flow of the football game.
And they got the running game going. We saw it last week versus Minnesota. They had 175 rushing yards, although 84 of that was from Josh Allen. This week against Cleveland, not a good rushing defense.
Right.
So you always
but a
want to
real
caveat
run
that.
game. Exactly. That's the
But
question.
It was a real run game.
Right.
171 rush yards, only 7 of those by Josh Allen. You got Devin Singletary with 86. James Cook got rolling. Biggest game for his young career so far, 86 yards for him. So, yeah, that's the question. Was that real? Is that sustainable? What we saw there, was that just against the Cleveland Browns?
I don't know. I want to tend to lend to more towards it's the Cleveland Browns. Anybody and everybody can run on the Cleveland Browns. As long as you have some sort of a pass game where they have to worry about it at all, then you can gash them all day long. And that's where I want to. That's, again, where I go, I don't know if it'll be as easy against your Detroit Lions. And then the way you guys run the football, too, you can pose some problems to them where they got to, bend like they did in this one where they overplay the run and now it's big plays in the pass game. That's kind of what happened in this football game. So, no, I'm not sold on it. But I think the big point is this. To get the win with no practice on Wednesday because the team's got a lot of guys that are sick and beat up, then Thursday have a practice. Friday have Zoom meetings and do nothing. Saturday, do nothing and just find a way to get to the airport to hopefully get to the game and then play. I mean, it's not shocking that they came out kind of looking rusty and not that good early on in the football game.
Yeah.
So I got to give them a little credit for kind of battling through the week and the circumstances after that loss to the Vikings and then still win this football game and end up kind of winning it handily. I will give, Sean McDermott and company a lot of credit.
And now they get to play in Detroit again on Thursday. So they probably go back home, right? They're not just staying in Detroit.
No, yeah, they went home. They did. I know. I
home.
wondered that, too, if they might just stay and go, so what? We'll stay here because, you're going to travel on Wednesday for a week like this.
Right, but they wanted to go back home, shovel their driveway a little bit more because all that snow prevented this game from being played in Buffalo. But they did the nice thing as they were leaving, and Detroit social media asked them to do this. They said, hey, take care of everything. Turn out the lights when you leave. They go, don't break any tables, which we're like, well, the players don't usually do that. So you might need to tell our fans. They might not listen.
It was good social media.
It was good. It was good. So here, if you're watching on Peacock or YouTube, you can see Bills' social media. They're turning out the lights, locking the doors. It was I enjoyed that. The Bills, they play the game. Their social media team does a good job of playing the game like that. And now I hope we destroy them in 3 days from now.
Well, one of the other thing, and Pete, I don't know if you could pull it off or anything there, but I saw on their social media is, and I don't, they might have done it on Twitter, but they showed their flight plan on how they went back to Buffalo from Detroit.
What
right?
was it? What?
Well, here's Detroit.
Yeah.
Here's Cleveland, and then there's Buffalo. Let's say a downwards triangle, right?
Yeah.
They made the flight. They released a thing on social media where they took their flight plan. They flew to Cleveland and made a W, and then flew to Buffalo.
That's pretty.
So
good.
that was pretty good. It was. I thought that was pretty creative. Some of these teams in their social media right now is it's just top notch.
Well, you know what?
really
I always say this. You can tell which teams kind of like the suits, the head honchos, the people wearing ties, don't give a whole lot of pushback to the social media team. They just let them go.
Yeah.
They don't have a fear
Right.
of their social media
Right.
team doing something that's
They're
going to embarrass
trusting
them. They trust them, and so then those teams that have that trust
Here it is. Look
do
at
some
it.
cool
This-
things. So
this is
here it
pretty
is
good.
if you're
Look at
watching.
this.
There it is, the W all over Cleveland.
That's really good.
Then back to Buffalo. There they are.
Yeah, I got that W over Cleveland.
What if that's just always? Yeah, they always do that. It's like taking the lap around the stadium, right? Didn't the Raiders do that
Raiders
in
did
Kansas
that a
City or
few-
something like
yeah.
that? Maybe they'll pay for that. Maybe next time they play the Browns, we remember what your plane did to our city. Yeah, put an L over Buffalo maybe next time, Pete says. So a feel-good game for the Bills. They're back on track. We'll see if they can get another feel-good game against my Detroit Lions. It was a feel-good game, although not a very easy game for the Cincinnati big play Bengals in a surprisingly high-scoring game this week. 37-30. I think you could have seen the Steelers maybe grinding out a game with the Bengals if they were going to stay in this game. Well, they did stay in the game, in a high-scoring game, which was quite surprising. But the Bengals have now won 6 of 8 games since their 0-2 start. They figured out a way to win this game. I didn't have my eye on this game a whole bunch, Chris, so I don't know exactly what the storylines were, but Joe Burrow threw for 355 yards, and T. Higgins caught 148 of that. And so the passing game seemed very difficult to stop for a Steelers team that was getting a little healthier, too, and had Minkah Fitzpatrick back.
Yeah, it's the Burrow and company are starting to carve people up. I think that's the encouraging thing, and I think that's what I would use. That would be the big assessment of the football game overall. And then run game was nothing special for them, but where I thought Burrow was really good, and you might have heard me say this last night, is, big play Bengals, but when it wasn't there, he was very good at checking it down to Joe Mixon, checking it down to P. Ryan. Didn't force the issue, make stupid plays, or we know Pittsburgh thrives off of that. But yeah, he was the story of the day. He was, and I will give Pittsburgh's offense some credit. I mean, Pittsburgh's offense, it was ugly and gritty and short passes, and Pickett scrambles here and, makes a big throw down the field to Pickens, and they ran the ball okay, which they've shown a little semblance of a running game here as of late to where they hung around, but they're just not enough offensive firepower right now. And Pittsburgh's defense isn't like years past where they can play these type of games and rely on their defense to kind of pull it out for them. And we know they're still Pittsburgh and they're opportunistic that way, but they're not dominant like we've seen the traditional Pittsburgh Steelers be, where it was too much. It's too much firepower from this Bengals offense. And the Bengals defense, as we said, they make you earn it. It doesn't matter who you are every week. We see that. They don't quite get the credit they deserve on that side of the football. DJ Reader being back for them, I think, is going to be big down the stretch. He's one of the best run-stopping defensive tackles in football. But, yeah, I think the biggest thing I just took away was, Burrow, the passing game, was pretty damn special, and that was without Jamar Chase, and I think that's saying something.
Yeah, well, but they had – who did they have? Irwin –
Yeah.
What was his name? Trenton Irwin.
Yeah.
They don't need Jamar Chase. They had Trenton Irwin.
Hey, how do you game plan for that guy right there? I mean, gets his first touchdown catch, catches that ball on the sideline where he turned up and made a big play.
Yeah, he looked actually pretty good.
They spread the ball around. I mean, Joe Mixon, I'm still looking at the one play that he had for like a 24-yard gain. He ran like an in-cut from the left, like a receiver. But, yeah, within their simplicities of their offense, they're finding ways to create some illusions of complexities and things like that. I think that's the biggest thing. And then the other thing, too, that just was a little surprising to me is I was a little surprised at Pittsburgh playing maybe a little more man-to-man than I expected at times. I felt like when I saw a lot of the T. Higgins big catches, I was just going, man, it's him on Cameron Sutton, or it's him man-to-man against somebody, and that's just not a winning formula versus, Joe Burrow and that company he's got at receivers.
Yeah, Joe Burrow tied a career high with 4 touchdown passes in the game. 3 passes went behind the line of scrimmage. All of those were touchdowns. Samaje Perine caught 4 passes. 3 of those were touchdowns, so he had a big game, in a game where Joe Mixon did have to leave with a concussion, so that's something to monitor for this Bengals
semblance of a run game. That's what I mean. As long as they have that element of run, you got to worry about our short pass a little bit. Hopefully that'll be able to keep people having to defend that, and now you can, push the ball down the field, and they can be the big play Bengals.
Top 2 teams in the AFC North looking pretty good because the Ravens, the Bengals won, the Ravens also won. Although this game was not as pretty.
No,
it was ugly versus the Panthers, which I think they were favored maybe by double digits.
They were.
Right?
I made them a best bet.
Which I guess they did win by double digits.
Yeah, but it was 13, I think. I think the spread was 13.
Yeah, and they just scored 13 in this game, although that was enough because Baker Mayfield and the Panthers did absolutely nothing in this game. So give credit to the Ravens defense. Baltimore outscored the Panthers 10-0 in the fourth quarter alone. That's where this game was won. Not pretty for the Ravens. Lamar Jackson didn't know if he was going to play at times because he had an illness in the week, but he did play. Nothing to write home about, but a win is a win in the National Football League, and the Bengals. Why do I keep saying the Bengals? The Ravens got it.
They did. It was ugly. It was, and I think again, I think a team that's got an athletic front seven and speed to kind of hang in there with Lamar. I was surprised at how well they defended the run. I think the thing that I probably or didn't assess the correct way is just that, I think Carolina probably felt pretty good about their guys covering Baltimore, which really allowed them to load the box. And that's where, again, you can get into the questions of, is there enough firepower? Is that offense creative enough in the pass game? When matchups like this happen, they struggle. But Lamar did not look like he was sick all week. Didn't look his explosive self, and just couldn't quite do anything in the run game throughout the day. It was an ugly football game, and the Ravens defense, fortunately, was awesome, creating turnovers and the big fumble they created on Smith to really give them the chance to go ahead and kind of put the game away.
Yeah, 4 sacks, 3 takeaways, all in the fourth quarter. 205 yards allowed by that Baltimore defense. But the key
shocking
offensive
player.
player.
Not shocking, but not I just thought the Ravens would be more dominant. They were kind of sleepwalking after the bye week. It's kind of what it felt like.
Well, they had one dominant player.
Yeah.
Demarcus Robinson. How about that?
Right.
9 targets, caught all of them, 128 yards, the most yards by a Ravens wide receiver since 2019. Who would have thought?
No, I know. Demarcus Robinson. And I think that's where, a few of the times where I saw those type of plays where I just went, and I think it was a huge slant pass at one point where, again, I think it was just the Carolina selling out to stop the run. They felt good with their cover guys against this group, and Demarcus Robinson, ended up being the benefactor of some of that man-to-man coverage there. But, yeah, that was not a very impressive win by the Baltimore Ravens either way. But I still look at them to, watch out. 7-3. Still very much in the thick of things in the AFC, and definitely one of the best teams in the AFC for me.
Game ahead of the Bengals in the AFC North, still 7-3 record, as you mentioned. 2 more games to get to, and we'll do those in Give Me the Headlines, presented by Hyundai. We'll get to the Falcons and Bears, but we start with the Saints beating the Rams 27-20. How we do this is we're in the newspaper editorial office. Chris does that with his mouth. We got breaking news. What's the headline for Saints versus Rams, the 7-point victory?
La La Land.
Ooh.
See ya. It's night time.
Oh.
Bye-bye, Rams. See you in 2023.
This is it.
Yep.
They're done.
Good night.
They're officially in your mind. We've said it before.
Yeah.
We go, we don't think they're going to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
Now you're saying for sure it's done. It's over.
It's done. It's done. They're a physically beaten football team. It's too much to overcome. Now you got Stafford and the concussion protocol. They're getting to the point here where they got to be careful about where they go with the future of the team here, just as far as just not letting him get killed. He got killed yesterday again. He was phenomenal early on the game. I mean, made some huge passes, huge plays in the pass game while he was getting killed, but there's just nothing there. And, we talked about it. Their defense is really good, but that was a tough matchup for them with this team because this team's got some balance, and when they do have a little bit of an aggressive attack in the passing game and they're healthy at receiver, this is where, I've been a little bit hopeful of the Saints. The Saints have some things about them that I like to make me think, hey, they could have been competitive in the playoff conversation. They might be too late now, but this is what the potential, their run game, and they can kind of control the line of scrimmage there. And then, Andy Dalton and the offense looked like they cut it loose a little finally yesterday. It's the one thing that bothers me about them. Just not enough playmaking in the passing game. And they got that out of Chris Olave yesterday, that's for sure.
21 of 25 for Andy Dalton, 260 yards, 3 touchdowns. It was his first game with 3 or more touchdown passes and no interceptions since 2019 with the Bengals. So just when you're about ready to write off Andy Dalton, what are they doing? Put Jameis back in there, maybe even Taysom Hill. Andy Dalton brings you right back.
Yeah, played a great game.
He did.
I mean, he really did. Big plays, was efficient. I mean, that was one of those where, when you saw Stafford go down, and you went, oh, man, he's not back in. And then the Saints kind of, were hanging around, and they took the lead on the Landry pass down the middle. You're kind of like, well, they look like they're in total control of this game. I don't think they're going to be able to do much with Bryce Perkins at quarterback and mount a comeback. And, basically the Saints kind of kept their foot on their throat, and that was that in that football game.
Yeah, it's a head scratcher for the Rams.
It really is. It's rare that you see a team that went to the Super Bowl kind of just fall apart like this.
So it's their worst start. They're 3-7 since 2011. That was the final year of Steve Spagnuolo.
Wow,
that was even before
the Jeff Fisher era.
Right. So they have not been this bad to start a season in a long, long time. And you mentioned that it's Matt Casey was out here, and he was like, "When is the last time a Super Bowl champ looked like this?" Because a lot of times we do see it. It's not uncommon to see it with a team that loses to have that hangover, but for the champ. So Pete's done a pop quiz here.
Let's let me think here.
Who was the last Super Bowl champ to finish with a losing record the following season?
I want to say.
Don't look.
I'm not looking. I'm not even in the documents here. I'm on NFL Jesus. All right.
Okay, all right.
So I'm all right. So right off the bat, and don't tell me if I'm right, tell me if I'm right. But if I'm wrong, don't tell me the answer here. I'm going to say it's the 2016 Broncos after the 2015 Super Bowl win. I'm incorrect. So they had a win. We're going losing record.
Losing record. Yes.
Okay. Hold on. Don't get.
They were 9-7.
Oh, so they went
9-7.
9-7. Damn. Okay. Hold on. Hold your horses there. Wow, I'm really choking my ass off here. I'm gonna say it's the 2006 Steelers.
You gotta go back 3 more years.
3 more years? Is it the Buccaneers?
The 2003 Buccaneers.
The team I was on.
Famously drafted defensive end Dwayne White in the second round.
Right.
As Pete notes.
Yes.
Who'd they get in the third round? Did they get anyone in the third round then?
Yeah, my man Dwayne White out of Louisville is my buddy. Yeah, and then in the third round, they made the greatest pick in the history of their franchise. Better than getting Brady in free agency or anything.
So you were part of history. You don't remember that. Yeah.
Well, you're right. I mean, I didn't get there yet in my mind as I was cycling back through the years. I think that would probably been my next guess because, yes, I was there. And the teams that won it before Pittsburgh were New England both times, and they never fell off there. So I would have got there eventually.
So are there similarities with that team?
No.
And this team?
No. Our team was like it was a lot. It was drama. It was more Super Bowl drama. Keyshawn, we released him in the middle of the year. We started, I mean, people were talking about us going undefeated. We had some crazy losses. Some losses where you were like, whoa, the Peyton Manning coming back from 21 points with 4 minutes left in the football game.
Oh, yeah.
That was against us, right? We had a game against the Carolina Panthers where they blocked 2 field goals and the extra point to win the game.
Oh, man.
Right. I mean, we lost some games where you were just like, I was sitting there on the sidelines that year going like, is this the NFL? This shit is crazy. I mean, how the hell do you win a game in this league? I mean, that really was. It was an amazing experience in a year, but yeah, it was underwhelming and a lot of drama for sure.
How many games you win that year?
I think we were 7-9, maybe
7-9. You know, Rams might be lucky to win 7 games.
I know.
So you might still have them there.
Right.
Not great. One more game to talk about. This one was not great for the Bears, although they started out with a lead. Falcons came back and beat Chicago 27-24. Your headline for this game is
Defeat. Falcons. Hurricane Ditka can't beat Hurricane Cordarrelle.
Absolutely right. We did see the Ditkas there.
Oh, there they are.
They were there.
Look at
it was
that.
A bachelor party of how many Ditkas is that? Wow, we didn't see this on the broadcast.
Man.
We're showing the Twitter picture
How
of them.
much do you hate those people right there?
I hate those guys. Each and every one of them.
Each and every one of you.
18 Ditkas.
Ahmed doesn't hate anybody, but he hates anybody dressed in Chicago Ditka
I hate the Bears, which is why it's bad because I kind of like Justin Fields.
I know.
You know, it's
All
like
right.
but I hate the Bears, and so I have to hate Justin Fields, and I have to hate all those 18 Ditkas. And then afterwards, the Falcons tweeted this. They go, sorry for ruining your Bear Bachelor party, because that's what they did. They came back and won. You mentioned Cordarrelle Patterson had a 103-yard kickoff return for a touchdown, his 9th in his career, the most in NFL history. And that was a turning point. Falcons were down 10, then they were down 3 after that, and then edged out the Bears by 3 in the end.
Well, he had fumbled the series before that to let the Bears go up 17-7, and you were going, man, the Bears, they're in control here. You know, Atlanta, I don't know. I don't know if they're going to be able to keep pace. And, you know, Justin Fields was looking good, and you're just going, okay, here we go. And then he returns that kick, and you just go, oh, okay, all right, we're back in the game. And then they get a stop, and then they make a nice little clutch drive to get the field goal at the half. And, you know, then it kind of felt like they were in control of the game for the second half of the game. And, it just, hey, it was a coin flip type of football game that Atlanta's very comfortable in this type of game.
Yeah.
You know, it's the Mike Vrabel in them, I feel like, with Arthur Smith there. But their run game, they're, again, another one of those teams where the formula can't vary. If we get outside the formula, they get blown out or get dominated. But if we can run the ball, right, and not make many mistakes and stop the run usually, then, hey, we can win the football game. Now, stopping the run wasn't easy in this one because this group in Chicago can really run it. But, yeah, good win by the Atlanta Falcons. And Justin Fields, as amazing as he was, man, another game where it took a lot of hits, and I'd like him to be careful a little bit.
Yeah, his 5th straight game with a touchdown pass and a rushing touchdown ties Kyler Murray for the longest streak in the Super Bowl era. But, yeah, he had to leave the game with it looked like an injury to his non-throwing shoulder, but didn't look great. 3rd straight loss by 3 points or fewer for the Bears. So they've been in these games. I give them credit, but you're right. The Falcons figured out ways to win these games, and I think Arthur Smith's pretty good. He does some creative stuff with not a whole lot of talent.
No, it does. He knows what they are, and then they just have a toughness about them to where, as long as they're not too outclassed by the talent of the other team, you go, they're gonna hang in there and make it interesting because he's gonna have the proper game plan, and he's incredible in situational football, just like Mike Vrabel is. So another team that's not sexy, and I don't imagine them being in the playoffs, but they're one of these teams that's gonna hang around and be scary and probably upset a few teams' playoff hopes as we go along here. And it's remarkable because you just look at it and go, I don't really know there's no marquee thing to talk about with the football team. The passing game is meh. Kyle Pitts almost got hurt yesterday. That was like the most scary thing for them. His knee got a little banged up. But, it's smash mouth and, defense kind of just hangs in there, and they found a way to get it done. And again, Chicago, I'm still excited about what I see in Chicago.
Sure.
And I do think they're building something that has a chance to be damn good in the future.
Falcons are going to be the team that the final couple of weeks of the regular season, we have Steve Kornacki in the studio, and they're going to be the team that's still on the list. You're like, they still have a chance to make the playoffs? Yeah, they're in the hunt. It's like we haven't written them off yet. I'm like, no, they win out. They're a playoff team.
It's amazing. And I want to pull up their schedule just to kind of see what it looks like here down the stretch. Happen. Washington this week.
Ooh.
Yep. Steelers. Bye week. At Saints. At Ravens. Cardinals at home. Bucks.
I mean,
who
knows?
Kornacki early phases of being on the show. They're still in the hunt. I think at the end of the year, week 17 or 18,
we've written them off.
They'll be out of there.
And then, as Pete reminds me, they will be in Requiem for a Team when we bury
they'll never be dead.
Playoff teams.
They'll never be dead.
They're dead then.
They're dead then.
We revive them.
And then you'll talk about their draft positioning and then bring them back alive.
Top pick power rankings. And we do all that for all the bad teams here. We got one more game to talk about, but we'll do that in our next segment. As I close, that was Give Me the Headlines, presented by Hyundai. Almost got ahead of myself right now. Hyundai almost, like some of the lawyers were like, wait a second.
You got to read the fine print, Ahmed.
You didn't close the segment.
You wore the red pants for us today. We appreciate that.
You went to the early Bet MGM parlay preview, but now it is the appropriate time to do that. Monday Night Football, 49ers, Cardinals in Mexico. So the 49ers are favored by 8. You think the 49ers will win, but you don't think it will be by that many points.
I don't. I think this is a team that poses some problems. Here's the first thing. You've heard me say this, is Vance Joseph, to me, is one of the few guys in football that's been able to match wits with Shanahan and do some things on that side of the ball, and with their personnel set and the speed of some of their second-level guys, Isaiah Simmons, Collins, Budda Baker down there a lot, and that to where they can kind of – they don't have issues with, this guy's going that way, this guy's going this way. They're athletic enough and creative enough to have some answers for it. And then on the offensive side of the ball, the one thing they do too is, of course, they're in a spread. They spread out that defense of the San Francisco 49ers. The 49ers don't really play man-to-man a lot. So within that spread, it stretches their zone out a little bit. And then if you have the Kyler Murray effect of him being able to run the ball, now that makes that guy playing the zone between the slot receiver and, I want to help out with the run, but I got to help out with the short passing game. It puts them in a little bit of a bind that way. So I have a hard time thinking that the 49ers are going to win by more than 8 points. I like the Cardinals to cover this one all the way. I like the 49ers to win. I do, but I do think the Cardinals do some things here that give the 49ers some issues.
So when you made this pick, it was an 8-point spread. It has grown since then. It is now a 10-point spread. So the 49ers are favored by 10. The line opened at 7.5.
What's the reasoning
I think it's probably the Kyler Murray effect, right? If he doesn't play, Colt McCoy goes in there.
Well, I mean,
might not drop off a cliff, though.
They went 2-0 with Colt McCoy against the 49ers last year.
Yeah.
They kind of, or I think maybe it was 1-0. I think he only played the second game. They went 2-0 against the 49ers. McCoy only played in the second matchup. That does not affect my decision at all. It really doesn't. Yeah, I know Kyler Murray's capable of doing more and explosive plays, but Colt McCoy can certainly run the offense. And if there's people open in that short passing game that we're talking about, and with DeAndre Hopkins back, you talked about we might get Hollywood Brown back tonight too,
Maybe. I
right?
think it's unlikely. But
but they're somewhat healthy on that side of the ball to where, I have a hard time seeing that. I'm really surprised to see that line went up to 10 points.
Here's the most important thing. If Arizona can cover, then you will sweep Florio in all your pick categories this
Damn,
week.
it's about time. I've been getting swept more than I've been doing the sweeping.
The action never stops at BetMGM. You can sign up now using the bonus code SIMS. Your first wager is risk-free up to $1,000, Chris.
So say you bet $100 on the Cardinals to win outright. If you win, you'll get $340, Ahmed, and maybe a new pair of red pants that you're wearing.
Love that, yeah.
Okay, but if you lose, you'll still get $100 worth of free bets.
Can never have too many red pants.
No, you can't.
Simply download the BetMGM app today or go to BetMGM.com. Enter bonus code SIMS to make your first wager risk-free up to $1,000. Wouldn't that be cool one day? We both show up with red pants. I think that'd be a cool moment in the pod.
Yeah, you could have that one. That's up to you. It's all you there, Slugger.
I've shown up with a shirt that
you
has
look
your
good
logo
in
on
red.
it.
Okay.
I do look pretty good in red.
You have a great tan.
Yes.
You're different. Red does not look good at me. When have you ever seen me wear red? When I wear red, I turn red. White people can't wear red. I'm too white to wear red.
Yeah, try it though. One time
It's
on
just-
the pod.
yeah.
We'll do a bet. We'll make a bet,
Well,
and
maybe
if you lose,
instead of kissing your feet, I'll wear red.
there
pants.
we go. I like that.
Okay.
I don't think we have anything set up.
No, we don't
for that
have
one
anything
yet.
set up. So all right, we'll figure something out. We got plenty of things down the stretch here.
My one that I have to do right is call your dad the big effer to his face,
Right.
but use the real word for it.
Right.
And curse for the first time on this pod,
Yeah.
which I've never done. But the only way I do that is if the Rams make the playoffs, which we called a couple weeks ago when I bet Pete the Rams were still maybe favored to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It was borderline. Now it's looking very, very unlikely.
Yeah. Well, you're not
but
gonna have to call him big effer. You're gonna be safe.
have to make another bet. Then
Yeah.
at some
All right.
point in
Well,
the
we'll make
future.
some bets. We'll come up with it. I mean, we certainly will. I mean, we
Yep.
should have made a bet for Giants Lions, and you probably could have won that, but you
you're
were, sipping pina
Why
coladas
didn't we
and
do
Turks
that?
and Caicos because you were in Turks and Caicos.
You're right.
And the week before that, you were with a bunch of horses' asses.
That's true.
So you just have ditched me lately.
all
Can't do
around.
anything.
Yeah, that's true.
Jeez. All right. Well, speaking of ditching, I'm ditching Ahmed for the
What?
Wednesday pod. The hell with this
right.
guy. All right. We're not doing that. No, we got a little bit of a different schedule because of Thanksgiving this week. And so today, you got this.
Yep.
Wednesday was just going to be the Picks podcast with Florio. We're actually going to do 2 different Picks podcasts, too. We'll pick the 3 Thanksgiving Day games, so that'll be a standalone pod, and then we'll go and do a standalone pod for the rest of the games on Sunday. That'll be happening Wednesday. So, Ahmed, I'll give you the rest of the week off.
Yes.
Enjoy the week.
All right.
All right.
Nice.
And we got Thanksgiving, which I'm excited for. Big day. We got the dog show on NBC. I
Yep.
love Thanksgiving morning. I really am. Like
Parade.
what the parade, and this is like one of my bonding days of the year with my daughter. Like we love to get up and sit on the couch, put the blanket on, and enjoy the parade into the dog show. Into, hey, turn off the dog show. The football game's on now. Okay.
Pete has written here, after the Thanksgiving Day parade, don't just watch the Bills beat up on the Lions. At noon Eastern on NBC and Peacock, you can catch the National Dog Show presented by Purina.
Yeah, it'll be on for a little bit, for sure. And then it'll go on to a secondary TV where, the football will take over. But the dog show will be on in the Sims household because it's my mom, my daughter, they all love to kind of keep their eye on it.
Yeah.
So it'll be on like the kitchen TV. That's where I think that'll go. And then the main family room TV will be on the Lions Bills, which I'm really excited for. My favorite holiday of the year right now.
So we're going to let you behind the curtain. This
Yeah.
dog show's not live. This has been taped previously.
Yes, right.
Recently.
Right.
Pete took his family to the event on Saturday.
Wow.
He says it was a spectacle.
Yes.
He said the kids got hopped up on candy. They pet some dogs, and he paid for it later.
Yeah, well,
So-
that's what you have. Control your kids. Damn. Don't let them act like a bunch of dogs. I mean, like a bunch of animals. Jeez, Pete. Come on.
Yeah.
Well, sugar is the precursor to any parent's disaster of a night.
Yeah, it doesn't usually
It
go
usually
well there.
doesn't end up
So
well.
Pete's previewed it, gave it a thumbs up, so
Yeah.
we'll all watch it on Thanksgiving Day.
Yeah, check it out. It's a good day on NBC. And, of course, that night on NBC will be Patriots Vikings, which will be a great way to end your Thanksgiving. All right? So no treasure hunters, no what the Happen Wednesday podcast. Ahmed, you the man. Enjoy your Thanksgiving.
Thank you. You too.
Everybody out there, enjoy the Thanksgiving. Enjoy your family. Man, 3 great games that day. It's going to be phenomenal. Can't wait for that. Be safe out there, okay? Don't do anything stupid. You know, if you've had one too many, call Uber, call Lyft, call something, all right? It's not worth driving if you're a little tipsy. You know, let's enjoy the holidays. Let's not ruin the holidays for other family members. Be good out there. Peace out. Enjoy it. Clap it up.
Clap it up.
Thanks for watching, homies. Hit subscribe to see all my Unbuttoned videos. You get to see me, Ahmed Fareed, all the big player breakdowns, game breakdowns, player interviews, and my film analysis. So please subscribe. Chris Sims, Unbuttoned. Peace out.